All right, so my PechaKucha is called Smarty Pants. Basically, I wanted to talk about some of the cool textiles and smart clothing that are out there. So to give you a little introduction, in elementary school and in high school, there are two things that you could always find me doing. And you can see this in my elementary school yearbook and high school yearbook. I always, had my nose in, oh my god, 20 seconds is so fast. I had my nose in sci-fi and fantasy books, and I was always crafting. So I was that kid who would come to school with like homemade clothes and be like, look how cool this is, even though it probably wasn't, which is why I didn't include a picture. When you go to university, you kind of abandon all the things you love, unfortunately, even though you're paying tuition to do things you love. I went to Ryerson's New Media School, abandoned crafting, abandoned all that stuff, and then since I graduated, I've kind of been slowly creeping back in. So the two pictures that you just saw, Google Glass and the kind of Tron-esque costumes, are two things that kind of have been perking my interest back into sewing and back into crafting, and realizing that there's a great hybrid world between what I do now in technology and what I was interested in as a child or a teenager. So now I'm on time. So this is another cool design impact that kind of like inspired me to get back into some of the things that I love. I don't know if anybody saw Carrie Underwood wear a dress similar to this in her country music awards. I don't really like country music, but I saw this dress and I was like, hey, I guess I'll watch this. But basically, it's inspired me to start crafting and using sewing and technology together. So this is like an example. I didn't actually make this, but this is way better looking than anything I made in my first trial runs. These are like chunky technology sensors, Arduinos, all those sorts of things that you can kind of just like take off your circuit board and put into clothing. It's not comfortable, scratchy, it's itchy, but this is kind of like how you get started when you're like exploring the different elements of wearable circuitry. So this is kind of like the nicer version. It's embroidery, it's a lily pad. Lily pads are like flat Arduinos, which are small microcontrollers, and you can basically power lights, which you can see here inside of your embroidery, inside of some of your clothing. So this is kind of like just giving you a brief introduction. So because those things are a little bit chunky and not so great to look at, I started looking at some of the other elements that you could use to incorporate tech and fabrics. So this is conductive thread woven into almost like a knitted scarf. So basically what the individual is doing is trying to create like a string of lights in their scarf. This one has no interactive properties, but it was just kind of interesting that she was just taking the step to hybrid those two worlds. This one's really cool. So the girl here is knitting sensors. So she's using conductive thread, and at the ends here, they're attached to different microcontrollers to create knitted sensors in which these little pads, when like squeezed or like pulled, could tell you how much force is being applied, which I thought was really cool and interesting. Some of the other things that kind of perked my attention, since I really like fashion, were some of the endeavors. I'm dropping my cards, that were going on across in the United States. So basically this is called a Numa dress. They coined the term haute tech, like haute couture, but haute tech, and avant tech, like avant-garde fashion. So basically what they have is they have interactive clothing. So this one basically gauges the temperature of the model and expands the dress to kind of give her more air circulation as she's walking down the runway. The previous one was kind of like a light system that was echoing the weather outside, which I thought was really, really cool. Oh my god, this one's so cool. So this is called the Living Wallet, and I need this because I'm so spontaneous with money. It runs away from you. It has little wheels. It runs away from you every time you want to reach for it to spend money. So it has a little sensor. It like wheels away. So that's pretty cool. It's really slow, so they have to like do that in their next prototype to make it way faster. But it's cool when you catch it. When you catch it is the best part. You open it up and it screams like, no, no, don't touch me, stop touching me. And then if you still continue, if you don't listen and you open it up and you take the money out, it sends a notification to your phone and it calls your mom. So my mom's always like, stop spending money. And I'm like, no, I can't. So that would be something that would totally be something I would want. This is really cool. So if you look at her skin, she actually has like LEDs mounted onto her skin, because she's wearing something called conductive ink, which is really, really cool. So if you think about all the properties that a wire can give you insofar as like sending electricity to a bunch of lights, they're actually using those same materials but turning it into an ink that you can wear. I love this photo. So basically this is like walls, a little cage or a box of conductive sounds and lights, and she's wearing conductive paint. So her dance moves, this is a dance school in at the Royal Conservatory, her dance moves and the way she like moves her legs and touches the walls will instigate sounds and lights and patterns, and I thought that was really beautiful. There's a really great video out there. And this is another example of how you can see just simply the batteries being touched to her skin, the electricity is going through and lighting up that LED. And it doesn't like hurt or anything. The coolest thing, which I thought about on my way over here and I didn't include, was that they're actually developing a line. It's in its prototype. I want it so badly. It's a line of conductive makeup. So basically, you have like eyeliner on that's conductive, and you have a little battery pack, and your blinking turns on like lights and makes like things like go off in the room. It's so cool. I thought this one was kind of lovely. So this one is called the Memorable Hoodie. So basically, if you're having a really stressful day, the hoodie can sense whether or not your respiratory system is acting faster, and it can gauge whether or not your temperature is going up, basically to see if you're having a rough day, and it can play a soundtrack in the hoodie of like maybe your like significant other being like, it's gonna be okay, and then play like an audio track of like a song that makes you feel relaxed. So I thought it was cute for like kids, like if a kid was having a really bad day and his mom would be like, oh, it's okay, like it's all right, and then like his favorite song plays. The picture before was really cool. I don't like sports, but this actual sweater is like, maybe I could get into sports. No, not at all. But it's basically a sweater that baseball players are using that can gauge their body movements as they're pitching and send that information to the coach. And the coach can look at that information and see inconsistencies that might lead to injury later on, which I thought was like fucking cool. I don't know if I'm supposed to swear. And then the last thing, this is my last slide. Basically, it's hard to see, but it's a chair. And I thought like maybe the next interesting thing that I could like take this inspiration to, and maybe you could too, from interactive clothing and kind of go into interactive interior design. So that was a chair basically that didn't do anything special. It kind of just like, it was like temperature sensitive, so if you sat down, there'd be like a lighted imprint of a pattern on the chair. But I thought it would be so cool if like your house, like in all those sci-fi novels that I read as a kid, could be more interactive to your body temperature, make you feel better, like that hoodie did. But yeah, that's basically the end of my PechaKucha. I hope that it inspired you as it inspired me to kind of get it back into fashion and sewing, crafting, and see it as a relevant thing to what I do now. And that's the end.